Hi everyone, and welcome to the first of our live webinars for FutureHack. It's very exciting to have you guys here. We've got some exciting people to talk to today. First of all, we have Charu, who is an Assistant Vice President of the Digital and FinTech Partnerships, and we also have Atiluke, who is a Manager of FinTech and Digital Partnerships. We're very excited to hear from them and very grateful that they could be here to give you this live webinar. We'll also be we're recording this meeting and we'll be posting this into the Discord server. So if you're watching this in recorded version, don't worry about it. I hope you get all the information you need from our speakers. And yeah, if we're happy, let's kick this off.
Great.
Hi, Charu. I'm just checking that you're happy to kick things off and start sharing your presentation.
Just a moment.
In the meantime, is there anything that you're particularly excited about the hack? If you are, please send a message into the chat. It would be great to hear what you guys are interested in, which challenge you're thinking of doing. And yeah, we're very excited to meet you all.
Ruby, happy to take questions. I don't really have a presentation, so to speak, but happy to field any questions if you guys want to understand what the theme is, etc., and, any details around that.
Okay, thank you. If you're happy to share your thoughts just on the general challenge areas of the hack, that would be really good. Kind of give our hackers an idea of what they could be focusing on, and any particular insights you can provide them will be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me do one thing, right? Let me start off by giving you a bit of context as to what we mean by personal data economy, what are our thoughts around monetization, and so on and so forth. So let me start with that, and hopefully that will trigger some questions and some thoughts then that we can answer, right? The entire genesis of this idea, for us is from comes from the fact that today we all, at least, I mean, as individuals, we have about 3 to 4 devices that we are connected to, digital devices, right? And with every step and action that we actually take today, we are actually leaving behind digital crumbs. And it's what sort of, when it all comes together, it actually develops a digital personality of of oneself. Anonymous, but yes, it is who we are on virtual, or on the internet, right? Today, what happens is that, all of this data, with every click and every share that we do, all of the data is collected, then it's analyzed, it's synthesized, and insights are drawn, and then this is sort of packaged and is sort of by the big techs out there, and then is sort of sold to willing brands who are willing to sort of target these customers because they think that they are the ideal customer for themselves, right? And they spend a whole lot of money on that, and this money sort of goes to these platforms or these big tech companies, and that's how the world of advertising runs, right? So our thought came from the fact that if this data is it belongs to me, so let me take myself as an example. If this data belongs to me, then can I not monetize that for myself? Right? Why should anybody else have that control, so to speak? Why should anybody else have that, decision-making power as to who can use my data, who can target me? Can I not do that for myself? Because today I don't have transparency as to where my data is being used. I do not have any idea, because I get spammed on every possible channel of mine. Can I not that filter it and get more valuable messages online, which make more sense to me? So that was sort of the genesis of the idea of about personal data, right? Can we give back the power to the individual to sort of manage his data and to be able to monetize his data as he or she, deems fit? So that is where we started this is the germ of the idea, right? So then we thought about the fact that, but every individual may not be that technologically savvy to be able to manage their data and monetize their data, because it takes a lot of time and investment and tools and resources and technology and the know-how to be able to do that. So we said that, how can we as a bank sort of play a role within this, space? And to do that, we then thought that, if you look at it, if you look at the scenario today, or if you look at the ecosystem today, customers already trust us with their financial data, right? Today, we know where you're spending your money, the kind of investments that you have, and the products and services that you're using. Or if you're taking out a loan or a line of credit from us, we also know where you're using it. Are you buying a car? Are you buying a home? Or are you doing home improvements? Or whatever that might be, right? So we have your money safe. We also have data on your money, so we understand what your financial personality, already looks like. Now, if we were to extend that a little bit and say that if our customers trust us enough to keep their money safe, because we have, state of the art, security systems in place, we're compliant, with everything the regulator is asking us. So, that is the highest level of security, an organization could have to make sure that your money is safe, because ultimately that's what we exist for. Could we then extend that to data as well? And when I say data, we're talking about social data, your other behavioral data, your fitness data, and so on and so forth. And if that could work, and just imagine this with me. So imagine you're a customer of the bank, and you, with your consent, you've given us, control, or not control, wrong word, but if you've given us access to certain data of yours. So it could be your social data, it could be your preferences, it could be your fitness data. So let's say I'm able to connect to my Apple or my fitness watch, and I'm able to get my data out of there, my health data and what have you. And if the bank can then play that role of an intermediary, to be able to say that, okay, this is your data, we've synthesized this. And on the other end of the side, we have a whole set of merchants that we anyway deal with, right? I mean, we offer credit cards, we have offers and so on and so forth. There are multiple merchants in multiple thousands who we have in our sort of ecosystem who are looking to target these customers. So imagine if we were to be the conduit in between and say that, okay, we have these customers, of course, the data would be anonymized, but this is the personality. And then you have the brand who can target these customers. And then, the customer in this scenario is able to make the money, right? For being targeted, for being able to consume. And we went a step further and said that, every monetization does not have to be in terms of currency. It could be in many ways, right? So it could be either in terms of money, of course, it could be loyalty points, it could be rewards, it could be the product or service itself, or it could be in the form of discounts. So this is the world that we're imagining. We're trying to see how we can democratize, your own data. So, as an individual, you're able to sort of take that control back and do it. Now, the challenge here is that how do we as a bank get that started? What sort of infrastructure would we require to be able to activate something like this? And that's the crux of this entire challenge that we put out there. Yeah, so I'll just pause there. If you want me to unpack anyone or any one of us, have any questions, I can unpack that particular piece.
Yeah, that was fantastic, Charu. Thank you. I see that we have a few of our hackers with us. If they have any questions, please raise your hand and share it through audio, or feel free to put it in the chat. I'll leave you for a minute or so just to see if you have any questions, but if not, we'll move on to our second speaker, I believe. Okay, it doesn't seem like we have any questions.
Okay.
I just wanted I actually had one myself.
Please,
if you don't
go
mind
on.
me asking. Do you have any existing projects where you've kind of looked into this area already, or have you heard of any other companies that have used this kind of monetizing data strategy and that you could share with our guests?
Yeah. So I'm not aware of any banks in the space. I'm not aware of or any financial service institution in this particular space. We obviously know that there are tech giants who have a strong line of advertising that do this. However, there is a startup out of the UK that was on Shark Tank, or their version of it, Dragon's Den, a couple of years ago, trying to raise funds for this. And give me a moment, I will try and sort of drop that link in the chat for everybody. But then that is there. But I don't think there is a financial services company that is doing this today. And from an investment perspective, I mean, we want to get into this, but I think we're looking for the right way to do this. And if I were to unpack that a little further, Ruby, for everybody's benefit, is that um, the way we think about it is that, if Emirates NBD were to launch a data bank, right? I mean, if that would be it, so what would that interface look like? How would a customer get onto that? How would he give consent? I'm just thinking of the user journey here, right? And once you're connected, how do we connect to the customer's various data sources? It could, I mean, we're living in the age of 5G where IoT is just about to spring up. Can we also get information off their devices that can give us a little more insight on their, behavior at home or otherwise? Can you connect to their vehicle? Can we understand, what their sort of fuel usage is, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, it could be anything, right? Then could we connect them further to insurance companies? So that is one thing. How do we connect with that entire ecosystem of a customer or an individual where we're able to, get the data and then draw insights? And then how then do we connect to the ecosystem of these advertisers or of these people who want their messages out to this particular person, right? And then more importantly, the question of contract. How can we actually enable the customer getting into a contract with this particular company with complete transparency, right? And then how do you modulate the terms or the tenor of that particular contract? Now, what sort of flexibility could we offer there? Could we say that, you're getting into this contract where is it for 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and what would that revenue be then? And from a bank's perspective, how do we enable this entire handshake between the two? So this is where we want to, we will be looking for, some really bright ideas. We know what the journey should be. But and we're okay. We're always happy to be challenged as to what the journey should look like. But how do we actually get this activated, right? So that's where we are coming from. I see there are a few questions. I think Venkata, do you want to go first?
Um, yeah, hi. So my question is from a customer point of view. So suppose I am sharing my email ID or contact number to the third party via the bank. So what will be the monetization process like? Because once I share my contact details,
Yeah.
so there is a chance that the third parties can misuse in a different way, or they can sell the data to some other persons, right? So how can and also, so what will be the business model like? Will it be on the based on the consent basis, or is it based on the data basis? How it will be that?
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's a good question, right, Venkata? So look, we are not. This happens already today, right? Mobile numbers, email IDs, and these are blind. I mean, I'll call it blind data, right? Because you don't know anything about the customer. You perhaps know some, outdated information about where the customer works, what his perhaps, potential salary bracket is, and so on and so forth, and then you're targeting. So we are actually talking about enriching it a little more. And more often than not, the data that you're talking about, your email ID and mobile number, is not usually taken with consent, and then it is sold, to brands to sort of target these customers. We are talking about consent, and consent is the centerpiece of this entire, of this entire concept, right? So the customer consents that you will give us this data. And again, the data has to be richer, otherwise it makes no sense, right? I would like to know if you're a coffee, lover. I would like to know if you're a fitness lover, right? And I would like to know if you run 5 kilometers a day. Then I can effectively go and, find you a contract as a bank to say that, yes, Nike is launching a new shoe, or Adidas is launching a new shoe. It's a limited release right now. Let's call it their beta, and they're trying to figure out if this new particular material that they have used, synthetic rubber, whatever that might be, is it actually working, right? Is it great or not? So the point would be, can we then connect these two people, somebody who's a marathon runner, etc., and this brand, let's say Nike, for argument's sake, connect the two of them together and say that, okay, Nike will give Venkata this particular shoe for a period of 3 months at a free of cost thing, where Venkata is able to share back data, because you can connect to the Nike app. The shoe could have an IoT element in it, for example, and the data is being shared back to Nike via us, so that Nike can actually improve their product. So we're talking a little beyond just regular advertising. We're talking a little beyond, your regular marketing messages. But that is the kind of thing that we're doing. And in this case, the consent is absolutely important, right? And then there can be contracts and terms and conditions legally that can actually, bind both the merchant, let's say Nike here, and the bank and the customer to say that, this information should not go out, because there's an equal risk for the brand, in this scenario as well, for information leakage and so on and so forth, right? So the contract has to be tight enough to make sure that, the confidentiality of this is maintained. I hope I've answered your question, Venkata.
Yes, thanks for that. And just one thing is like, will there be like a business model, because these are all high level
Yes.
things which you're talking right now, but will there be a concern like suppose one customer wanted to
Yes.
share his data only for 12 months and other can share for 24 months?
Yes.
So the personalized thing, will that be a part of the solution?
Yes, so that is something that we definitely want to build in, because at the end, again, at the centerpiece of this is the customer, like I said. So consent is one thing, but giving him the flexibility of doing this from a business model perspective, again, this is something that we need to sit down and think about what it could mean, because every data is different. So in this case, the scenario that I spoke to you, right? I mean, the customer's already received a free shoe, for example. That could be a part of the remuneration, but in addition to that, we could add something. But this will become very bespoke based on the brands or the merchants that we are discussing this with. From a bank's perspective, there would be a standard. I mean, this is, this is the initial thought that we had, is that it could be a per transaction charge that we could have, right? So for every successful connect that we make with a brand and a customer for a period of time, there is a per transaction charge that we could charge. And this is typically how a bank anyway works when we're, when we are advising you on any investment products and so on and so forth. So we can continue the same, logic here as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your answer.
With us, sir? Yes.
Yes. Yeah, Charu.
Yes.
Typically, this in terms of monetization, I think as a bank, this is mostly connected to the one like in telecom companies, because those are the people who basically do the monetization. They work with bank, they work with the B2B, they work with B2C, because they have got the mobile information, location information, where they are going, where they are coming. I think this is more aligned to it. Do we align it to our transaction monitoring, because that is the space where we monitor all the transactions of a customer, right? So do we take consent and use that particular model here to understand the behavior of the customer, where they spend, where they go, because that is the area where you actually have those transaction monitoring, right? So
Yeah.
usually in the banks, that's the
Correct.
space where you connect it.
Correct. So I think you're absolutely right. I think it will only be strengthened. So you gave a very good example. And even when we were thinking about this, we thought that there were two capable players who could get into this business. One could be a bank and the other could be a telco. Because, if you look at it, our lives are divided between, a bank, my credit card and my phone today, right? And there's a lot
Right.
of information that is being gathered. So you're absolutely right, from this perspective. But I feel that the bank sort of trumps it purely because, we have the entire financial understanding of a customer, right? And when you're talking about transaction monitoring, I'm talking about I mean, I'll take that a level further, because every bank is today working on transaction categorization, right? We're trying to understand, and this is already happening, no? So the
Right.
example that I gave you, if I'm if my bank knows that I swipe my card at 8 a.m. every day at a Starbucks, to pick up a coffee which is 20 dirhams, then I'm a coffee lover. So if I have to target you for a either a new launch or a discount, then I know I'm doing this, and this is already happening within the banking area, space rather. And I think even telcos are also doing this to a degree. But I feel that we have an upper hand, coming from financial services, purely because of this transaction categorization and so on and so forth. So imagine the financial data, add to that your behavioral data, add to that your your fitness data, your health data, or anything else that you may consent. So think of an ecosystem of a customer and the connected devices and apps that the customer already has, where he is generating these digital footprint, right? Even social channels and so on. How do we package that, and how do we enable the customer to feed this back into to the bank, and then how do we then package that and find the right sort of merchants to work with for them, so that we the customer is able to monetize that data.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, great. Nufal, you have a question to go on?
Yes, Charu, thank you so much for the briefing. Before I go to the question, I think the name of the startup is Generate Ads. That is the startup you were talking about, the UK-based one. Yeah, it sort of the video went viral. Their pitch. So I have shared the link in the group if anyone is interested. It's an
Yeah.
interesting pitch. Yeah, so my question, I mean, thank you again for the briefing. So my question is more towards the hackathon and how it will be evaluated. So as a part of the hackathon, I think there has been an API sandbox that has been published. I'm not really sure if this would be relevant for the use cases that we would be pitching on here. So I was just, I wanted to check with you whether can we, I mean, do we have the liberty to, use our imagination in terms of the nature of the data? I mean, of course, within bounds of common sense, on the nature of the data that would be available. So say we create a dummy data set of, a bunch of customers and their transactions and so on, and the kind of transactions that they're making, essentially for the purpose of demoing a product that we would be building. Would that be okay with you, or from a judging criteria?
I'll take the first part and I'll ask my colleague Basit to answer on the sandbox piece. So yes, do get creative, and I completely understand that not all the resources or the APIs may be available on the sandbox today, but do get creative from a perspective of pragmatism, right?
Of
So
course.
what data is available today, and where I mean we would appreciate that there is a way of bringing this data in. And it's not hypothetical. So as you research, what you want to build for this, do look at the ecosystem and see what APIs are available today and how can we, bring that in. So pragmatism will earn the highest points. So I hope I answered that question. And perhaps Vasif, if you want to cover off on the sandbox.
Yeah. So on the API sandbox, we don't have any APIs for personal data economy. So the APIs that are available are primarily banking APIs, which are focused on the first two problem statements, which is around payments and SME.
That's correct.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
So I'm guessing we are free to create our own data set.
Yep.
Of course, within reasonable bounds. Yes. Understood. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Do we have any more questions? So Ruby, maybe if there are no further questions, let me just outline end to end what.
One small
Modesta,
question,
please.
please.
Yes,
Sorry.
please go on. No problem at all.
So are we looking at the retail portfolio, or is it the corporate one as well? So, because there can be some, corporate level as well. Some of my thoughts were running around that as well. So do we go only on the retail side of customers, or is it the corporate level as well? Portfolio?
So, Mudassar, I think that's very interesting, right? So we've always looked at this from the lens of retail banking. So from a B2C, perspective, or from our perspective, a B2B2C perspective. But if you have any interesting ideas as to how this model can work for a corporate or a business, we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, I think as if there are no further questions, as a parting thought, what I would like to tell you all is that think about it from the end-to-end journey. Think about, when you're presenting the solution, think about a few data sets that you could actually, which are pragmatic, that you can actually, sort of bring into the solution, and how then can you see the bank sort of, bringing that in and then, exposing that to a merchant, and how the contract could work, right? I think these are the key tenets of the solution that we're looking at, or we're seeking to understand from you guys.
Great. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah, thank you guys for participating and for asking your questions to Charu. We're very grateful to have her here sharing her expertise and thoughts on FutureHack. And yeah, I think that about wraps up our live webinar, unless there's any very, very last minute questions or anything that Wasif or any of our guests would like to share. Okay,
Great.
Thank you very much for joining the live webinar. I hope it was useful for you. We'll be posting a link for this into our Discord channel. So again, if you're watching the recorded version, don't worry, and please feel free to send any more questions onto the Discord. We will try our best to get our mentors to share information with you. And yeah, I'm very excited to meet you guys next week. It'll be brilliant.
Likewise. Thank you so much, everybody. We're excited to
Thank
see what you guys can
Great.
build for us.
Great.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye.